In this video we're going to learn how to build the Holden tent tarp shelter by using two different sizes. I hope to illustrate just how quick, simple and easy and also versatile this is. Our large tarp is 3 by 2.9 metres, so almost a square. Our small tarp is 2.8 by 1.5 metres. We can build this either using 4 pegs alone or we can use 5 pegs plus a guy line, but we can also really customise and strengthen these, which we'll look at later on. For the small shelter, we're going to use about a 110cm long trekking pole, and for the large shelter, about a 148cm trekking pole. Just to give you a general idea of the difference in size of the tarps we're using, here they are side by side, but let's start with the big tarp. So this is near enough a 3 by 3 metre square, and all we're doing to start with is attaching the rear two corners with a peg. So that's literally just 2 pegs, one in each of the rear corners. Now we move to the front, find the central loop of that front line and attach the trekking pole. You can see here it's quite a windy day, so I'm going to use a guy line and an extra peg here to peg that out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can see we've broadly created a triangular roof shape for our shelter. So now to finish it off, I'm simply grabbing a couple of extra pegs, go into those front corners and pegging those down to the ground. And it really is that simple, and just wait until you see how deep this shelter is and just how much headspace and room it's got, but we'll look more in depth at that in just a second, as well as customizations and how we can really make this a significantly stronger shelter with a couple of guy lines. But right now, let's make our small version of this. So I'm going to use the long side as the front and back of the smaller tarp. Once again, I start by pegging those rear two corners to the ground, and this time I'm not going to use a guy line, I'm just going to put the trekking pole in that centre loop on the front of our shelter, and then I'm going to peg the two front corners down. Again, it doesn't matter if it falls down, we're just trying to get a rough idea and get this shelter roughly in position. And as you can see, by adding that final peg, it's created the solidity and helped to pin the trekking pole in place. And so there you have it. Two very simple shelters offering a surprising amount of cover, which we will see the full extent of in just a second when I get the air mattress out. Right now I want to show you just a quick walk around of these so you can see them from different angles and fully visualize the general shape of them. Of course, once again, I just want to say you can see how many extra loops there are that we can guy out or stake down to the ground so that you can see how much more solid these can be. Also, for the sake of filming this, I had to build them in a less than ideal direction where you can see they're catching the wind and filling up quite a bit. But we'll see what we can do about that in just a moment. So this air mattress I'm using, just for your point of reference, is roughly 188 by 56 centimetres at its longest and widest parts. And you can see, especially in the big tarp, just how much space there is. You could probably sleep 3 or 4 people in there if you really needed to, whereas the small tarp doesn't give me much headroom, but it does allow me to lie down fully. Admittedly, I'm not the tallest person. I'm not 6 foot. I'm not even close to 6 foot. But on a serious note, I wanted to just move the camera in a little closer to give you a couple of different angles so you can see just how much space there is. Look at that. I'm lying without my feet touching the rear of the tarp, and I can't quite reach that front pole. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. Admittedly, that pole is extended way beyond what it's recommended to. I've extended that pole to almost 150 centimetres, fully extending it and then some beyond both of the stop points on both of the extendable pieces. I want to just point out here as well, if you were doing this amongst some woodlands or if there was a large stick around, then you might wish to guy the top point of the shelter to that or to an overhead branch. And the same with this one. Of course, depending on where you're building it, you might have debris and sticks around you. You might have overhanging branches to stake to. So you could, of course, customize it with its height. But of course, the higher you make it, the more narrow the opening will become, and the lower you make it, the wider the opening will become. You can see the small one here at 110 centimetres at its highest point isn't giving me much room to sit upright, and it's also, as a side effect of that, forcing me to sit more in the open rather than fully sheltered like the large tarp allows me to. Before we take a look at how we can solidify that large tarp shelter, I just want to show you some of the other tarp shelters I've built and tutorials I've got on this channel, so please do check my other videos for loads of this sort of thing and me actually out sleeping in these kind of shelters as well. Wish me luck in some of them, I'll say that much. I'd also like to say that, amazingly, DD Hammocks actually sent me out the big tarp for free, but I liked it so much, I actually bought the small tarp myself afterwards. So I am a huge fan of tarps to the extent that even when I had one for free, I still went out and bought another one with my own money. So this isn't a sponsored video, I haven't been asked to do this or anything. I just absolutely love camping, love the outdoors, and love doing this sort of thing. What I'm illustrating here is just how much you can tighten this shelter up with a few guy lines or pegs. And when you're using a 3 by 2.9 meter tarp, that's a lot of potential flappy shelter surface area. So you can see by reattaching the guy line to the top of my trekking pole and pulling that tight, it helps to really tighten things up. And of course, you can always readjust where your corner pegs are to get them more in line. And of course, peg each one of those loops that are remaining to the ground. That'll really keep the draft out. But here, I've got 3 potential loops across the back centre of the shelter, which if I was in a woodland, I would probably choose to guy to overhanging branches to help pull that up and away from me. Not that I'm really struggling for space using this as a solo person, but you can see even just pegging those into the ground and adding a little extra tension to that centre point and centre line of the usable space of this shelter. We've got a rogue bag trying to blow away here, but that's a good indicator though that we just had this consistent wind coming in from the side of where I had to build these shelters for the sake of filming it. I'll just give you a quick glance inside now we've added those extra guy lines, and you can see it's stopped a lot of that flapping around without even pegging any of the extra loops to the ground. Again, just look at that level of space in there. Remember, that's 188 centimetres of length, that mattress. But as I say, with the wind hitting it from that side, now that we've guyed that extra loop in the centre of that edge, you can see even though the side of the tarp is bowing inwards, that extra guy line is really stopping the general shape and structure from collapsing. I hope that you found the initial tutorial section of this video useful, and then this latter part's a bit of food for thought of how you can help strengthen and better build more solid tarp shelters, whether the Holden tent or otherwise. I'd like to thank you all for watching and ask you to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and please do check my links in the description. I'll leave some Amazon associate links to some of my camping gear down below, and if you buy through those links I will get a commission, so that's an excellent way to support the channel if you were looking at getting some of this sort of stuff anyway. I'd also like to thank some of my recent PayPal supporters, channel members, Facebook subscribers and so on. So thank you. AJ, Zoe F, Rich AH, Melissa L, Colin S, me, Kevin Y, Alice L, Jackie A, Sean B, Kaz G, MV, George B, Marissa, Mr. Dave C, Lima Bean, 1234, Art V, Clydeface, Terence Seymour, Amber Sanford, Dogs, and Rob. Thank you very much, everybody. Until the next time, keep it tarp worthy, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.